We got a bunch of news coming out from Alex Kurtzman and company regarding all the upcoming Star Trek projects. Discovery goes to Channel 4 in the UK, and we've got a couple of different drama bits going on the internet. Let's pour it up! Okay, so the first story that we're going to go ahead and jump into for today is a very lengthy interview that TrekCore did with Alex Kurtzman and a bunch of his cohorts post New York Comic Con. And we got a bunch of information released out from a whole slew of new productions coming out for Star Trek, including the animated shows and Discovery and Picard and possibly even a little Pike show. But we'll get to my little theories on that one. Okay, so the first little bit up here that I want to talk about is when asked about Lower Decks being picked up for a 2-season order, they wanted to understand what that process was. And apparently so, yes, Lower Decks has been picked up for a second season already, as has the Nickelodeon show that we don't actually know the name of, but apparently according to Kurtzman and company, they do have a name for it, but they're not going to share it with us just yet. But both shows have been renewed for a second season right off the bat, right up front, which is great in my opinion. That means we're at least going to get 2 seasons of these cool new animated shows, so I'm very excited to see exactly what those things are when they come out. And I don't know, it's nice and reassuring that I guess a show has a second season already in the can, so you don't just invest yourself into something that potentially will go away after just, a very short truncated set of episodes. But I'm very excited for that, and I'm glad that they were able to secure that deal with Nickelodeon and their own internal animation stuff. I'm excited for that. Also, with the 2 short Trek animations that we're going to get, Alex Kurtzman and company did say that they were rather surprised with how difficult it was for them to kind of get the animations kind of together for those particular short Treks. They thought those were going to be the easiest. It turns out that apparently that they're taking the longest, which I guess they just didn't know too much about animation. I don't really know too much about animation, but I know it takes a long effing time to get done. It's not just simple sketches and you're off. But so those 2 are taking the longest to get done, and we have confirmed, of course, that Children of Mars is the short Trek tie-in to the Star Trek Picard show. So make sure you guys keep that calendar earmarked for those release dates on each one of those things. And if you're not sure where they are, you can go check out my Trello page, and I do have the schedule posted up there all the time now until we'll run out of short treks and leading up to Picard. But for those anybody who wants to quickly access it and the image where all the different kind of schedules are for the short treks, it'll be posted up there. Another question that was asked by TrekCore to Alex Kurtzman and Heather Caden, which was how many episodes that Star Trek Discovery Season 3 was going to have, and they are going to be rocking with 13 this time. They did talk a little bit about why they maybe not want to went to 14 or maybe even 12, depending on which direction they wanted to go, but they settled on 13 and felt like that was a solid approach, and that's what they wanted to do, which is great, and they are 13 full episodes, so anybody saying that they were going to be mini episodes or short treks or it was going to be a truncated 6-episode season, that's not the case. Straight from the horse's mouth, they're saying that it's going to be a full season order of 13. So that's very exciting. Now, one of the things that I thought was rather interesting and kind of ties back into more Pike show theories for you excited fans out there, which is TrekCore asked directly about the opening of a new CBS studio up in Canada, which is a story that I did cover actually a few days ago, or maybe a few weeks ago now. But they were asked, like, hey, is Star Trek going to be going into these studio spaces now? And they were said yes, and they were like, well, what are you going to be using it for? And they were being very coy, and they just said simply something. Now, that could really mean anything. It could just mean that they were just trying to be coy about any of the other shows. They could have just been cheeky about the fact that current shows are going to be filming in there. But it was interesting that throughout the rest of this really lengthy interview, they talked about every other show, including Section 31, extensively, but they did not mention the Pike show. And to me, this kind of ties into maybe that they're trying to allude again to the Pike show. Alex Kurtzman did lay off another little joke about the Pike show again at New York Comic Con, so I'm wondering if maybe that's what they're trying to do. I'm going to keep bringing up the Pike show until at least for another 6 or so months. If we don't get Pike in the next 6 months, an announcement of Pike in the next 6 months, I promise I won't bring it up anymore after that. But at least for the next 6 months, for like April maybe. If we don't get it by then, I'll stop talking about it. And the final thing I want to talk about is Alex Kurtzman was directly asked about the possibility now with the merger of CBS Viacom Paramount of doing new Star Trek movies, or if that merger has changed any of the things that they've got going on for their production. And he said very, very pointedly, no, it's very business as usual for them. It hasn't really impacted their plans at all. And that they're looking forward to possibly making movies when that comes into play, which of course he would be excited to do, and I would be excited for that as well. I've talked about that a little bit in the past, where I've said, Alex Kurtzman would be the ideal person to kind of run both the television stuff and the movie stuff, provided that he could really start to win over some of those old guard, kind of hesitant fans to jump into the new Star Trek. They may not really be interested in what's exactly going on just yet. But if he's able to start to make more mass appeal and more popularity, and maybe reduce some of the negative attention that Star Trek does have, I think that a studio like, CBS, Viacom, Paramount may be more excited to put him into the director's chair for both the television stuff and the movie stuff. So that would be very exciting in my opinion. Okay, so the next story that we're going to be talking about is that the UK broadcaster Channel 4 will be receiving Star Trek Discovery Season 1 to be viewed without paying for Netflix subscription. Now, this is kind of an exciting bit of news for people in the UK that were not really interested in getting a Netflix subscription if they didn't already have one, just to watch Discovery. I think that if you've already gotten this far without really watching Discovery, you may not really watch it there. And unfortunately, it's only Season 1, which is frustrating because Season 1 is the most controversial of the 2 seasons of Discovery. And if they're trying to bring in new blood to the show, showing off Season 1 may not be the right idea. They really should probably show both seasons, but they may do that once Season 3 gets announced, so that way that they still are enticing people to try to come back and get more excited about signing up for a subscription service. But I don't know, whatever. I think it's a little bit of a risky move just going straight with only Season 1, but it is an interesting turn of events where they did in the past, CBS said that they were not interested in taking it off of CBS All Access or the paid platforms, whether both domestically or internationally, but this is a little bit of a change of perspective and a little bit of change of business. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how this is going to work. I'm curious to see if there's going to be any kind of censorship on the show. I don't know how UK broadcasting works in terms of censorship. I know the US is pretty restrictive on that. Maybe if you guys can let me know down below, that would be great. I am curious to see how they're going to handle some of the more adult elements, whether it be the swearing or the exposure of the breasts during that pseudo-rape scene that we had or whatever it was. So I'm curious to see how they kind of go through that process of censoring it possibly for a bit more of a broader television audience. So okay, so the final story that we're going to go ahead and talk about today is actually involving Will Shatner and, of course, Twitter, his favorite method of fighting people on the internet. Now, he did a kind of I don't want to say a defense of, but kind of like pointed out something very negative that somebody said about him a few months back. And that person was over on Twitter. Her name was Heather Ray. And she said some very, not so nice things about Will Shatner. I did cover that story way back when at the time. I'm not going to really dig all that stuff back up. But the problem is when she said some stuff about Will Shatner, a lot of people kind of went after her and kind of started to attack her and bully her and all this other stuff like that. Not to say that her words did not have the consequences, which they did, and she was definitely faced with those consequences in that moment. However, a few months later, not only did she apologize to William Shatner online, but they also spoke, and they were able to come to an agreement, and she apologized for what she had said, and he accepted her apology, and he said very very openly on Twitter that he had accepted her apology, and that really everybody just needs to chill out and stop bothering her. He accepted her apology, and then we moved on. Well, at least the majority of us moved on, because people are still attacking her on the internet. And what happened earlier this month was William Shatner kind of going after some of these people that are still attacking her, and he even went after everybody's, favorite, Mecha Random 42. This first one here is in response to a Jack Beers, and it says, and I asked him to stop the harassment of her ages ago and delete his tweet of harassments. He did, but then he continued harassing. So he's not innocent in any of this, so please don't make him a victim. So there was a bit of back and forth between these different people that are still harassing this Heather Ray individual and also William Shatner saying, listen, I already told you guys, please stop attacking her, but they aren't listening, and now they're trying to play different victim cards and stuff like that. And then Shatner kind of turned his attention towards Mecha Random, saying, you don't cure bullying with bullying. Yes, there appears to be a faction of fans that thrive on behaving badly. That's not unique to Star Trek. It happens across all fandoms. And media looks for eyeballs and salacious headlines. Bring that. Why worry about what the media says? And that is a tweet that's unavailable because I am blocked by MechaRandom42, but, that's okay because we have people that could just go and just check it for me, which is super nice of them. So the actual tweet that he was replying back to was saying, how do we fix Star Trek and stop us versus them clicks we have lately? The media says we're racist, sexist, and some fans recite it like it's true. We fell tossed aside by newer fans. This reminds me of having to hide my love of Star Trek so I won't get bullied. It's a little bit of a victim card thing there, but it's a little bit whatever. And then it eventually kind of wrapped up with a tweet. And that tweet says, this saddens me to say this, but I think Shatner is no longer worth defending. I made a video defending him against this hateful Heather C-word when she wished he was dead. Now I might have to make a broken-hearted video admitting I was wrong. Is it okay to make a video? So, very drama-heavy. Shatner's very drama-heavy on Twitter. Obviously, MechaRandom is known for being very drama-heavy on Twitter and on YouTube, but it is interesting. The reason I bring this topic up, because you might be sitting there thinking to yourself, what does this have to do with Star Trek? This is all just drama BS. But the reason I wanted to bring it up is to bring up a quick topic, is there is a time where it's okay to hold people accountable for what they have said, and there is a time where I think that it's okay to accept their apology. It's okay to make sure that the people understand the seriousness of what they're saying and or doing. But we also need to understand that when somebody does something wrong and then they fully apologize for it and they express regret and they actually apologize, and then that other person that was offended by that or that was directed towards accepts their apology, the rest of us need to get on board with that, okay? We need to understand that it's okay to make mistakes and to apologize. On the internet, usually if you make a mistake, you're eviscerated for life, and then there is no going back until people just simply forget about it. And even then, people still remember and they still throw it in your face. But we have to remember that it's okay to make a mistake and to say or do something wrong. And in this case, it was just something that she had said on Twitter. She didn't accidentally murder somebody and now has to deal with the consequences of that. It was just something that she said on Twitter that was inappropriate. That was inappropriate for what she had said. But she apologized, Shatner accepted, and the majority of us moved on, and I think the rest of us probably should that are out there still holding on to that. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into the rumor rundown. So there isn't really much going on right now in the world of rumors. There is a slight resurgence of the 25% rule thing kind of going on right now because of some of the changes to looks of certain people inside of the new Star Trek Picard trailers, and of course, basically the trouble with Edward Short Trek and the change a little bit of the whole tribal background. Some people are insinuating again that they were forced to make these changes, and again, there is no evidence to support that. I've already done a lot of extensive videos debunking a lot of those things, so if anyone has any other bits of evidence they'd like to share with the class, share them down below, and I'll be sure to investigate them and either debunk or prove it. So, if you've got something out there that you think is good, share it with the rest of the class. The only other rumor right now is, and I'm unfortunately having to put this story in the rumor mill because I no longer really support it and its, I guess, its authenticity, is the whole GoFundMe page for Anas Abdin's lawsuit with the tardigrade versus CBS that he's running with, and really against Star Trek. And that GoFundMe has gotten all the way up towards its $20,000 goal. That different people have donated to Anas Abdin to continue to press his legal lawsuit against Star Trek. And if you guys have caught my other tardigrade video a few days ago, you will know that I have kind of picked apart the timeline a little bit there, and also Anas's own authenticity with what he was doing. So I don't actually think that this is a real story anymore, which is why it's kind of being shoved into the rumor section, because I think it's a bit of a rumor that Star Trek stole the idea for the Tardigrades video game, and that's a bit of departure for what I've normally said, so if you're interested as to why, go check out that video. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into the Trek Trivia question of the week. So it's been a while since we had our Trek Trivia question, and I know that I think it's been like 2 weeks almost. So in case anybody forgot, the question from last episode, the last official Earl Grey episode, was how many times did Kirk and the original series crew go back in time? Now, the official answer really is 7. That's how many times that they went back in time. But we do know that in the DS9 episode, I think it was Trial and Tribulations, that one of the temporal officers mentioned that Kirk had traveled back a record 17 times for different temporal events and stuff like that. But we didn't really see that. I'm not going to try to hem you guys up on that 17, but we're going to go with the answer of 7. So congratulations to everybody who got that answer correctly. Now let's go ahead and jump right into this trivia question of the week, which is, in the TOS show, there were several different pieces of equipment that were labeled GNDN, and I am curious as to what that means. What do you believe that that means? It's definitely something that you can either know offhand because you've probably worked in maintenance and that's kind of a common funny little term, but it's also just a something that you might be able to look up, and good luck finding it if you have to try to look it up, though, because it's quite interesting. But yeah, what does that particular thing mean? Good luck to everybody who's going ahead and throw up their trivia question answers, and I'll start hearting those in a couple of days. That way everyone has an opportunity to kind of go ahead and get their guess in before they figure out what the correct answer is. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into the comment of the week. Okay, so this week's comment comes from user Walter D. Womick, and it says, "Why all the hate? Seriously, the fact that the whiter than Wonder Bread developers have taken it for granted is just because it's Star Trek. Every effing one will just instinctively/intuitively understand just what the F everything does." Okay, well, just to give you guys some context, this is in a response to a rather old video that I did that recapped Star Trek Online and asking if it was still a good video game to play. And I did ask the question of why all the hate. Now, I'm not quite sure what the developers having to be, quote, white as Wonder Bread have to do with anything. I think that the hate for Star Trek Online comes into the fact that the game is filled with bugs and a lot of grind content, and it is a bit pay to win or pay to have fun cosmetics in some regards. So I don't understand why they have to be white to cause that problem, whereas anybody can be greedy with money. It doesn't require a specific race. And also the whole frustration with, not really understanding how things work. Now, I will agree with that because there is like a weird period of time in Star Trek Online where it takes your hand very slowly and shows you how certain things work. And then it just kind of thrusts a whole bunch of different mechanics onto you that you're not really sure about how to use. And it is a little bit of a kind of like a whoa, but there are plenty of YouTube channels out there that utilize these mechanics or demonstrate how to use them and all those different things like Loot Critter, and there's ZEF Films that kind of go through that, and there's a few other STO sites out there on YouTube that will show you how to use those. So I recommend you check those out if you are a bit confused or just kind of stumble through it. Remember, the game is free to play, so shouldn't get you that fired up. Okay, so that wraps up today's Earl Grey pour-up. It was a bit of a long one. We had quite a few stories to kind of cover over the last 2 weeks. I wanted to get it all out there for you guys. So I'm curious to hear what all of you think about the information that we got from Alex Kurtzman from his TrekCore interview. Do you think that they're going to be putting Pike in that new stadium studio thing that they're building? And what do you think about that whole beef with William Shatner? Do you think that that is something that you would be able to accept an apology for, or are you kind of slow to forgive or slow to forget or whatever that is, whatever that phrase is? I'm curious to hear what you guys and gals think about that as well. So go ahead and throw up that conversation starters down below and let's get that conversation started. And I will catch all of y'all next time. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies.